The inner working template, it's like an old tape playing over and over again. It's that I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. Have you been trying to detach from someone or something, but finding it really hard? It's not your fault. Unfortunately, asking an anxiously attached person to detach is like asking them to voluntarily stop breathing. I mean, who would want to do that? But don't worry, detaching isn't impossible for you, and I'm here to help. Detaching from things can help you save valuable energy. It can bring back your time and your sanity, and at the same time, it helps you come across as a high value woman. Securely attached people find it much easier to detach from things. But us anxiously attached people, we have a huge problem. The problem is that we never got the opportunity in our infancy and toddlerhood to learn the process of detachment. That's why it's so hard. And that's kind of the whole story of anxious attachment. It's that you cling. That's the choice you subconsciously make because that's the only way you knew how to function. In fact, even though for your entire life, you've likely experienced a lot of negative emotions while you're clinging onto people and to things, that clinging actually served you in some way. And your nervous system knows that. So that's what we have to work with. We are working with a relational prototype that says, increase my anxiety and worry as fast as possible in order to try to secure attention, love, and attachment. In other words, your nervous system and mine comes with a pre-written code that says, only stress and anxiety will give me any hope of bringing me the love and attention that I really need, even as an adult. That's why you experience such high levels of stress, and it's almost constant, right? If you're new here, my name is Renee. I'm the founder of the Feminine Woman blog, which is one of the most visited blogs since 2009 on relationships, dating advice, attachment styles, and femininity. In that time, I've had over 50 million women come and read my over 300 articles, and thousands of women take my online courses. On top of that, I have anxious attachment, and having gone through the arduous process of healing over the last almost 20 years, I've come out with superhuman insights that might help you. I'm kidding. I am not superhuman at all, but I know every single thing you are experiencing and you will experience as an anxiously attached person. I've been there, I have that inner template, and through my own healing and through having the privilege of helping others heal from anxious and disorganized attachment, I have learned a few things that I know will serve you and help you get to that point where you can detach healthily from the things and the people that don't serve you anymore. I'm that woman who, once upon a time at 19 years old, acted out every single cultural trope of the anxious, needy woman. So in this video, allow me to help you understand exactly why you're finding it so hard to detach from the people and even the things that don't serve you anymore, and give you one simple principle that will help you successfully detach in a healthy way without emotional residue. So first, what are we actually aiming for here when we're looking to detach as an anxious person? We're looking for the ability to let go of things that don't serve us in a healthy way. And by healthy, I really mean just being able to let go without emotional residue and without that doomsday experience of anxiety and stress, because it's so easy to just keep drowning in that anxiety when you have anxious attachment style. And if you're wondering, how are we going to do that as an anxious person? We're going to learn to reduce the anxiety and that constant stress by learning to see yourself positively. Because here's the truth about anxious attachment style. We have an inner template of relating to others that says, I'm all negative, and that person that I'm stressing and worrying about is positive. Now, this isn't just about putting people on a pedestal or anything like that. Even securely attached people can have moments of admiring other people. But the key here is that as anxiously attached people, we are constantly having this negative feeling about ourselves that follows us around everywhere. And that's part of why we can't escape our anxiety. So what we need to remember about our anxious attachment patterns is that our inner prototype says, I am negative, I can't cope, and other people are positive. Typically, when an anxious person tries to detach or let go, what they experience is heightened clinging, anxiety, worry, and hypervigilance. And they will cling even to the things that are super toxic and the things that just don't serve them anymore. But why? Why do we find it so hard to let go? Here's the reason. Are you listening closely? People with anxious attachment style and disorganized attachment style don't have a positive sense of identity. Let me say that again in case you missed it. If you have anxious attachment style or anxious attachment patterns, you don't have a positive sense of identity. Now, of course, the same is not true of securely attached people. When a securely attached person tries to let go, typically they can do it without emotional residue and without the stress, the worry, and that sense that it's doomsday and that it's a life or death situation. They just don't get that because they were given the inner resources as an infant and a toddler to cope with stress and with separation. And get this, securely attached people have a positive sense of identity. Their prototype for attachment and for seeing the world is, I'm positive and other people are generally positive too. The world is generally a trustworthy and positive place. Now, that doesn't mean that they can have beliefs like, oh, that person is toxic or that person doesn't serve me. They generally know and pick up on toxicity reasonably quickly, and they're able to let go of it because inside they don't really need as much as the anxiously attached people of the world do, because their caregivers acted as the secure base for them through which they can branch out, explore, go and learn about the world, and go and do things with that feeling of safety within themselves so that they can develop a positive sense of identity. People with secure attachment can let go and detach with the feeling that they haven't lost their identity. And they also don't need to fear losing their sense of self because it was already established and they have the inner resources to detach. Now, of course, as I've said multiple times before, the attachment styles exist on a spectrum. So what that means is someone who is 100% securely attached will have a different experience in relationships than someone who is 80% securely attached, or say 70 or 60% securely attached. And let's say someone is 80% secure, but they experience 20% anxious attachment. They'll have to deal with a little more anxiety than the securely attached person will. And the story is different again for those people who are anxious avoidant, and the story is much, much different for those people who don't experience much anxious attachment, but they're way, way far on the other side of the spectrum, which is avoidant attachment style. Now, the topic of avoidance is different altogether. That's a completely different beast, so we won't be addressing that in today's video. But all you need to remember for now is that if you are 50% secure, you'll have a very different experience to someone who is 80% secure. And if you'd like to get your attachment score and learn how secure you are on the sliding scale of attachment patterns, you can go to reneeslinks.com and take my free attachment styles quiz. So you might be wondering, what are we really aiming for here when we're trying to learn the art of detachment? What we're aiming for here is a positive identity. And now that you know that as an anxiously attached person, you see yourself negatively, you may start to appreciate how hard this can be, because your equilibrium, your modus operandi, your working in a template is always pulling you back to, I'm negative, I'm not good at coping, something's not quite right with me, and other people are great at coping. They're all positive. But in order to detach in a healthy way, and by healthy I mean so that you don't detach in the way that avoidance do, which is completely fake and is a defense mechanism by which you push people away and see them negatively and fake seeing yourself positively. You need to cultivate a positive identity so that you can slowly learn to detach over time and gain that positive feeling of yourself. Now, before I give you the one principle that's going to allow you to detach, we have to put this into context for an anxiously attached person, because when you go to detach, you'll always be hindered by something that is called negative affect in psychology, which means that those of us who are anxiously attached tend to kind of drown in our negative emotions and find it really hard to let go. That's where you get the obsessing, the clinging, the rumination, and just the proneness to depression and that feeling of helplessness. Not only that, but those of us with anxious attachment patterns tend to feel these negative emotions very deeply, and it's unrelenting. I'm sure you can relate, right? If you're anxiously attached. But if you're someone who's secure watching this, and you're trying to learn about those with anxious attachment style, just remember that balanced state of equilibrium that you have, that state of inner resources that was afforded to you by your caretakers, is a privilege that you take for granted. Don't ever expect that an anxiously attached person is going to just magically see themselves positively today. It doesn't work that way. It has to be a work in progress, and everybody involved has to be very patient and understanding. Now, if you've ever had a panic attack or even just an intense anxiety episode where you felt like there was just no escape, it was just constant negative thinking, and the more you focused on the stress, the more you thought negatively of yourself for experiencing the stress, and then the more you experience the negative emotions, then the more you assess yourself negatively again, because you can't escape from that stress. It just becomes a constant cycle, and it all compounds upon itself until you feel like, oh my God, there's just nothing I can do. I'm completely helpless. I've given that a name, and it's called the vortex of doom. So whenever you try to go and detach from someone and you notice that you just can't seem to achieve that yet, just remember, you are likely experiencing that vortex of doom. And what I want you to do is to try to become more aware of that, become hyper aware that when you're experiencing anxiety episodes that you can't seem to escape from, it's really there because you think that is going to serve you in some way. But obviously it doesn't. It's maladaptive. It doesn't work to calm down your nervous system. But that vortex of doom is actually key to learning to detach, because that is the moment in which you need to break your pattern and create that positive sense of identity. So just as a quick example from my own life, I'll tell you a little story that highlights this vortex of doom. So around about the time I met my husband, I'd had a somewhat toxic relationship with my ex before him, where my ex had cheated on me and it had made my anxious attachment style way worse. But what I noticed is that there was something very peculiar about the way I saw the world. So for example, my husband is securely attached and he has always loved the idea of exploring the world. When we first met, he really wanted to visit places like Italy, Greece, or anywhere just to experience and learn more about the world. However, as someone who was anxiously attached, I found that I was a lot more resistant to this idea of exploring. And I was very young at this time, of course. I couldn't let myself go out and experience the world because I wanted to minimize my exposure to emotional threats. So for example, I remember saying to my now husband almost 20 years ago, I don't really want to go and explore too much because I'm scared of seeing other women who I think he might cheat on me with. Secretly, what I couldn't escape from was this constant ruminating thought of, how am I different to everybody else? I couldn't get past this idea of, I'm not special. And how do I deal with this? Why is it that everyone else can function in this world, but I have to reduce my world into this tiny space where I'm not exposed to threats? Like I was struggling to even want to go to my friends' parties. And here's why. I didn't know why at the time. But the reason why is because I had no positive identity. So through this difficult process of healing, what I discovered really helped was to, in those moments where I was drowning in the anxiety, was to develop that sense of positive identity. So here's how I did it and how you can do it as well. Now, I recommend you get out a piece of paper or a journal or something like that and write this down because it's super important. Ask yourself, who have I nurtured? Or what have I given to somebody or something else? And how have I added to their self-esteem? In order to develop that healthy, positive identity so that you can detach, you have to have a sense of, oh, I'm valuable. I have nurtured something. I have given something in this world, and therefore I matter. I am valuable. Personally, these questions matter so much to me, and they make the world of difference whenever I go back to that state of wanting to cling or feeling deep anxiety, which is very rare these days, but it always helps to flood my body with positive feelings. Now, that may not be true for you, especially right now if life feels really hard or you're having really difficult challenges with other toxic people or you just can't escape that depression. It might be really hard for you. And here's what I suggest if you don't have any positive memories of what you've given to the world beyond yourself. Think of a time in the past where somebody has added to your feeling of confidence. Think of a positive memory, whether it be a teacher from your childhood or an auntie or uncle, or even just a random stranger who's appreciated you and your presence. Start there. All we need is a positive little spark to light that fire inside of yourself. See, here's the truth that you don't know as an anxiously attached person. The truth is that you matter. And this is crucial because the inner working template, it's like an old tape playing over and over again. It's that I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. And if you're an anxious avoidant in relationships, you may not even know this because you've essentially pushed that anxiety away to a point where you've now gone avoidant and you are thinking to yourself, no, I'm fine, I'm worthy, okay? But that's just a cope. For those avoidants in the world, remember it's a defense mechanism. They aren't securely attached. They don't genuinely see themselves and others positively. They fake this idea that they're positive within themselves by making other people negative and minimizing their importance in their life. Now, if you can't answer any of these questions and you have no positive memories in your life, then you know why you're anxiously attached. I'm kidding. Do what it takes. Write it down now. Find out exactly where is that memory of someone who's appreciated me, someone who's added to my confidence. And if you're lucky, you don't have to go to those memories. You can just say, hey, what have I nurtured? What have I given? Who have I given to that makes me important and valuable in this life as a person? Now, you may be wondering, why does this matter? I just want to detach. It matters because you cannot detach, you cannot stop clinging if you keep seeing yourself negatively. You need to see yourself positively to give yourself back the inner resources that securely attached people have. Remember, we're aiming to detach as a securely attached person will. Now, of course, you will never have that secure base that a truly secure person has. What you can have is earned secure attachment. You become that secure base for yourself. Now, here's the second key to making this positive sense of self-identity happen for you. It's to remember this. You deserve it. Say it out loud. I deserve this. Aren't you tired of holding on to all the negativity? I mean, if you're going to spend energy on negative rumination, anxiety, clinging, and just negative self-thoughts, can't you just let yourself learn to see yourself positively? Put all that energy that you're putting into the negative self-image into creating a positive self-identity. If anybody deserves this, it's you, okay? Because at the end of the day, this anxious attachment style was never your fault. It was the fault of unresourceful adults from your past. And I know that may sound like I'm blaming parents and whatnot. However, it's not always about blaming parents, because obviously not every parent starts at the same place. Not every parent has the same resources. Some of us are blessed. We've come from secure, warm, loving environments where we never had to question our sense of worth in the world. And those people would find it easier to transfer secure attachment to the next generation. But you need to know that if anybody deserves that positive sense of self and identity so that you can separate and detach from the things that just aren't serving you anymore, it is you. Remember that nobody came to you consistently enough when you needed them as a baby or a toddler, okay? Nobody was there for you consistently. So there's absolutely no need to feel guilty for feeling positively about yourself. This is about you now. This is about giving back to yourself and allowing yourself the resources to develop fully so that you can go through the developmental stage of learning to detach healthily. Let me suggest to you that this whole idea of detaching as an anxious person is nothing to do with having your own life. That's superficial nonsense, okay? You say that to an anxious person and they're like, okay, but they're still working with that inner template that says you need to cling in order to secure attachment and love and attention. That's not to say that it's not great or healthy to have your own life. Of course it is. But what you really need is that positive identity, that positive feeling that I matter, I am valuable, that most anxiously attached people have never actually even experienced in their life. Or if they have experienced, it's only been fleeting. That's what you deserve, and that's what you must give back to yourself. Now, if you want more from me, I suggest you watch this, maybe it's over there, I don't know, there, that I previously made on the 3 reasons why it's impossible to detach when you're an anxious person. And if you want even more from me, I suggest you go to reneeslinks.com and check out all the goodies I have for you there. I've got several quizzes that will help you learn more about your anxious attachment style, but also discover whether the partner you're dating or you're in a relationship with is actually commitment friendly or not. And if you find this video valuable at all, please consider pressing that like button because it really helps me out. And it helps the YouTube algorithm learn what you find valuable and what you like to watch. Okay, subscribe because this video is going to be a part of a longer series on anxious attachment style, and I hope this video has been of help to you. Until next time, take care and remember to cultivate that positive self-identity.